Welcome to another episode of Scouting for Growth, and I'm absolutely delighted to introduce you today to my guest, Anika Jackson. Anika wears many hats and does so with an enviable finesse. She's a mother, a community volunteer, a philanthropist, and a seasoned marketing and communications professional. Over extensive career, she has refined her expertise in diverse areas from experiential marketing, public relations, to digital and influencer marketing. Her expansive knowledge and experience make her a much sought after authority in her field. She's also the influential voice behind Your Brand Amplified, a popular podcast. It is also a strategic communication firm, leader focused on empowering, celebrating, and amplifying the real impact realized by cost-driven businesses and entrepreneurs in the world. Well, I will tell you that this past year, Your Brand Amplified has won multiple awards and has become a top resource for marketeers globally. Today, Anika will share with us her insights about growth, drawing from her multi-faceted experience and achievements. We will talk about Anika's path to marketing executive roles and how to deliver clear financial outcomes from marketing activities. What works and what works less in marketing land when a recession hits. What should small business owners pay attention to grow and scale their customer base? PR versus influencer marketing. What's the difference? Tips and best practice too from Anika. So let's dive in and learn from this dynamic professional and wonderful woman whose commitment to growth is an inspiration. It is an inspiration as much as it is infectious, actually. Please join me in welcoming Anika Jackson to the Scouting for Growth podcast. Hi, Anika. Thank you very much for joining me on Scouting for Growth today.
Sabine, I'm so happy to finally be here. I have been following you and we've been connected for so long. So it's such a pleasure to actually say, yes, we're here today.
We are here today. And yes, it has been a long time so that the listeners can understand. Anika and I have been talking probably a year ago, trying to organize this podcast. Life, work has actually come in the way. And here we are today. So welcome on Scouting for Growth. But to get started, Anika, I want to know about you, who you are, what you do, what has been the last changes, because I know we talked a year ago. So let's just talk about what has happened since.
Yes. It's one of those things that happens in life, whether it's in relationships or work, where you get these feelings, you're supposed to be going a certain way and you don't listen to yourself, right? And you start going, oh no, I'm supposed to do this. I'm supposed to work for this other person, or I'm supposed to take this position. And we don't have the trust in ourselves for our own growth and our own projects and what we want to put in the world. So that is what the journey has been for me over the last couple of years. And when we first were speaking, I was VP of PR and operations at Full Capacity Marketing.
Yeah.
I am still VP of PR there, but I was moving into a trajectory of becoming the CEO eventually. And over the course of last year, I realized that wasn't where my heart was. I love the company. I love what they do. I still love working with our clients there who are workforce development and education sector. But I have been a professor teaching graduate level at USC Annenberg for PR, for branding, for digital media management. And I've really fallen in love with working with the students and helping them. And in the meantime, my own podcast has grown so much. We were talking about this, having to manage everything.
What happened with the podcast? Tell us about the podcast.
Well, I was nominated for some awards last year. I didn't win, but the nomination itself, I was like, wow, because this is up with the big guns. And then now I am a top 0.5% podcast on Listen Notes. I have a daily weekday podcast. I have sponsors. I'm on an ad network I was invited into. So my podcast itself has changed from being once a week, maybe twice a week, no sponsors, just a hobby, into a profession. And the growth has been so immense. And I know that's what we're going to talk about a lot today, is marketing and growth and strategies. And that is really what I love. And it's fun to see it play out in my own product, not just for my clients.
And that is critical because I started as well scouting for growth as a hobby, and people need to really understand podcasting it's a side hustle. It's not a job. It's something you do between 5 and 7 for me, and it's once a week, and it's finding great speakers and really, I guess, enabling an ecosystem, people to actually find the nuggets of what they need, what they want to succeed. So tell us a little bit, Anika, about the world first of education, because you have just mentioned that you fell in love with educating. And I'm a professor, I'm a visiting honorary, fellow, senior fellow actually of Bias Business School, where I teach fintech disruption, and I will be doing CVC, corporate venture capitalist investing, and corporate partnership this year. So, and I find that great because I am coaching, educating, let's say, senior people, executive people who are doing their MBA whilst working, for big companies. So you meet really interesting people, but tell us about your experience around education and marketing.
Well, with education, right now, I primarily am teaching in the Digital Media Management Master's program. So everything changes every day with digital, right? AI has been around for 20 years, but only last year did we start talking about it and realize, and the popularity rose for everyone to understand what the technology is and start utilizing it for marketing or for efficiencies in our systems and processes. So we have to keep on top of everything. And when I'm working with my students, they come from all age ranges. Some are in their 20s, some are in their 60s, and they just want to learn how to manage everything that's happening, because everybody knows everything but it's marketing. Yes, there is still offline commercials, out of home, the billboards, but a lot of it is now digital. And so if you don't understand how to interact with that ecosystem, how to look at issues surrounding digital equity, access to these tools and technologies, how we can help make a positive change and not be scared of them. And so we talk about that a lot in our classes, and every student also has a capstone. And a lot of them are doing podcasts for their capstone. So it's been fantastic for me to take my own experience and say, okay, do this, don't do that. I already tried that one. And weave that into their experience. And then I've now found a market of people who want to learn how to successfully build their own podcast. And so that's something I'm working on right now, a curriculum for university and also curriculum for people who don't just want to make it a hobby and don't just want to make it a lead generation, but want to actually be able to monetize from the podcast itself because of their unique message.
Yeah.
And that's the way I teach branding also. I want to teach from the inside out. Who are you? What is your purpose here? So that needs to infuse everything you do. That helps you make a better decision on, do I take this job? Do I work with this person? Are they aligned with me or not? And that's what I think it's feeling really beautiful to come into myself more and more as I teach other people. I find that I'm learning as much as I'm teaching.
And that's the key. We are actually learning as much as we are teaching because we actually interact with people, and people
Yes.
have questions. And their question makes you think about maybe things you have missed out or the gaps that needs to be explained in better ways. But that is what teaching allows us to do. But another point you actually made is about purpose and being really true for oneself, right? So being clear around why you are doing what you are doing and how you are going to put yourself in the marketplace. How are students taking that? And you mentioned podcasting. Is that the new path to growth?
Oh, yes. I can talk for hours about how much I love podcasting and what I've learned from taking it from a hobby into a profession, into a business that's now monetized. It is the only omni-channel marketing that we have these days. You get the video content, you have audio content, you can create blog posts, thought leadership pieces, you can create hundreds of pieces of content for social media, right? So there are so many ways to utilize each episode, each interaction. Not only that, it's business development. Every time I'm on a podcast or have a guest on my podcast, not only do I learn something new from them, I get a new book to read, I have a new way to change my outlook on life or on a piece of business. But that is another person that I can now call on. If I say, oh, I have this person who wants to do this kind of work, here's somebody you should work with. Or, oh, the student wants to do a project around education sector and equity. These are the people they should talk to. And so it's really this whole world, right? I would never have met you. I wouldn't meet such amazing people around the world if it weren't for podcasting. And so I really do believe it is the big growth channel. And when I was fully focused on just PR services a few years ago, I had an agency that grew very fast during the pandemic. I ended up going from myself to multiple employees in multiple states across the United States, clients, 20 to 30 clients, running up from charging people $500 a month to coming up to $30,000 to $50,000 a month in revenue very quickly. I scaled so quickly, but I didn't put some things in place, right? But I also didn't realize, I realized a little bit that podcasting was important, but a lot of other publicists did not. So by going on this journey myself, I see that now they need to catch up because there's this world of podcast bookers, right? And then there's a world of PR people who need to be working on getting their clients booked on podcasts.
Yes.
And they don't want to see
We talked
themselves
to
as
many of them.
bookers. Yes. And this is a world where you have to think omni-channel, where you have to be integrated and you can't be siloed and think, oh, if I'm a publicist, if I'm marketing, if I'm sales, I'm doing this one thing. You have to work together because that's the world we live in.
100%. The way you're putting this is really interesting because I've been going on to that journey myself for the past 2 years. And I am fortunate that I've been able to build a podcast which sits in top 50 in the United Kingdom, top 200 in the United States. And, it's fluctuating. And then people need to understand I'm only podcasting once a week. So, my days, Thursdays, when my rating comes out, when the podcast come out, and then it's being, reviewed and downloaded by people, but you are doing it every day. And so it's a very different business. But yes, if you do good podcasting and actually really understand your audience and creating a really nice ecosystem of listener, you can start monetizing. I do not monetize my podcast, and people have been asking me to do so, by the way, Anika, but I do a lot of work, what you call multi-channel. So a lot of work, which is multi-channel influencer marketing, where the podcast is one of the channel we use as part of a campaign.
Fantastic.
You mentioned the recession, and I remember at the time when we talked that a lot of people were cutting on their marketing budget, despite, needing to sell. And people often do not realize to sell, you need to market, and you need to market first so that you're actually not pushing product, you're actually solving problem.
Yes.
Your experience working, in the world of venturing, in the world of corporate with large and small businesses, and how you actually address those challenges over the past 3 years.
I think I've really leaned into making sure I understand more about a lot of different things, right? So I can better advise people on how to make the best use of their dollars, knowing that many, especially if you're a small business, it's not easy to get financing unless you have somebody already backing you. Most small businesses don't. I'm on the Intuit Small Business Council in the United States. So it's made of members who use QuickBooks and MailChimp and different tools. And we are actually going to speak to Congress in a couple of weeks about AI and small businesses and why we need to make sure that they have access to tools, right? Last year, we spoke about digital equity and how small businesses had to ramp up to digital 7 years faster because of the pandemic than they were intending to. And a lot of businesses get left behind. So I think it's our job, particularly as marketers and growth strategists and brand strategists, to help them understand, build a solid foundation, build a solid brand, know exactly who you are, who your target is. And then podcasting, again, is a great way to get your message out to the right audience at the right time. Don't look at the size. You and I are in very special places, Sabine, with our audiences, but there are a lot of great podcasts out there that have smaller audiences, but they could still be the right audience for your product or service. I have personally listened to episodes and then reached out to guests and started working with them because I said, oh, I really like what they're saying. I know that that's something I want to pursue. Let me reach out and find out more about their service. So it does work. And it is a free, typically, way to market. And then you can turn it also into advertising campaigns. It shows thought leadership. So when we're thinking about how do you want to best utilize an ad campaign and your marketing resources, it's really about making sure you are reaching the exact target market, focusing on maybe one social media channel where you know that they're living, not everything, maybe reserve all of the names, right, across the socials, but don't don't scatter your attention. Just really be focused and niche down. And I think that's what I found with myself too, is I was getting so much more interest in the podcast and I have so much passion for it and education that I needed to niche down to making this a business and really thinking, okay, how can I help other people understand how to make this a business, but also help get more voices heard on my podcast so that more people can hear their stories and want to work with them and pursue
Yeah.
that.
And I so much agree. I tend to navigate between investors, corporate innovators, but also, startup founders, scale-ups, unicorns. And it's interesting because actually you are able to give them a voice. And, as you said, when you understand how marketing works, people look for solution to problems. So they are going to look for a specific keywords. And the podcast is going to appear on Google. And then they give them a resource to go towards to actually learn how to solve that problem or maybe connect with someone. And for those who are listening now, podcast is really critical because also those coming into the podcast get calls, right?
Yes. Oh,
From
yes.
people interested in what they have to offer. So it's a nice life cycle around giving and receiving and enabling as well.
Yes. I love the way you phrased that because that is the truth. It's not about you, right? And that's, I think, what a lot of people forget. They're like, I don't want to use my own voice, but this day and time, everybody wants to hear, who are you? What I'm buying into you, right? Like as a person and as the founder. And that is, yes, you have the product that's going to solve something, but I want to know more about the person behind it, the authenticity factor. And you have to have that and believe in the person and believe that then their solution is really going to solve the problem for you. So a lot of times people get hung up on, oh, but I don't want to be the spokesperson. Well, don't think about it as it's you. Think about it as you're offering something that people need to hear because what you have to offer in the solution you're providing is going to just help revolutionize things, or it's going to help provide access to something or change somebody's life in some way that's really important to them at this moment in time. So
Indeed.
take the ego out of it.
Take the ego out of it. And I like that statement as well, Anika. There are two things I would like to dive into. So first is AI. So you mentioned artificial intelligence changing the world of marketing. And as an authentic marketeer, I know I can go and dive into AI in authenticity with you. And how can we be authentic in the world of artificial intelligence? And you went to Congress to actually make sure that young businesses were not left behind. That is my first question. Second is how do we build a brand identity in the world we are embarking into and entering now?
Yeah, gosh, those are such great questions, Sabine. The first one with AI, my recommendation right now is there are companies and there are people. I just was speaking to students about this yesterday about how now some TikTok creators will create things in AI and they'll put them out because they are going to get more views and more money, but it might not have accurate information, right? If you just use AI to create something, there's a lot of misinformation in it. I've done examples where I just say, okay, I'm going to have this write a blog post for me and then cite all the sources because you can ask AI to cite the sources. And then I'm going to click through and see, are these real sources or not? And it's not always the case. Sometimes it says, oh, here's the source. And I'm like, there's nothing here, or this is not talking about what you say at all. So you have to be very careful and really use it as a tool. So write some marketing copy or if you're trying to think of a tagline for a campaign and then put it in AI and just say, hey, tweak this a little bit. And the more specific you can get, the better, right? You know this, like talk about your brand voice. write it in a very, informal way, conversational way. I use these kind of words and language. Here is my mission of my company. Now create something so that it knows more, it can hone in more. And the more that you use prompts and the right kinds of prompts, the better you can get at it. But I always use it as the tool, maybe a look of like, oh, I feel like this paragraph is not quite polished enough. Let me see if it gives me a few other words to use rather than just go look up synonyms or antonyms or other words on the
What we
dictionary.
used to do, right? I remember
Yeah,
you used to have the antonym
exactly.
things like, okay, I need a different word for this, for the word.
Yes.
And then you have all these word cards. That, oh, I like this one. Let's just use this one,
Yes.
right?
Yes. And I recently spoke to Manoj Agarwal, who lives in Vancouver. He is one of the foremost experts on AI. I'm sure you probably have talked to him as
Not
well
yet,
or know.
but we'll go
Not
and
yet.
chase
Okay.
it.
Yeah. Oh, wonderful. And he is so optimistic. He's been working in AI for over 20 years. And he said his recommendation for everybody is start with the big tools from the big companies that we know, because everybody right now is churning out, oh, I have this AI solution, I have this other AI solution. But if you look at them, a lot of them are losing funding, they're consolidating because they don't have a perfected tool. So use Midjourney to make images, right? Use ChatGPT, use ones from companies that we know and trust already that are, we know they're pouring a lot of investment. And just start there. Start by learning one or two tools. AI really is behind machine learning, right? It's everything we do, from the algorithms on social media that help us find people or help people find our brands, to ad tech and serving the ads out to people through digital.
Yeah,
So we've been using it for years. We just didn't know that that was the word for it.
yeah. And that is the way, it's very important for people listening to what we're saying, in this little device, we do have AI, right? A lot of artificial intelligence already embedded in it. And I know, Johnny Ivy and Sam Altman are going to build this next device for us, which will be AI driven. But, we have been using AI forever. So first, let's not be scared about it. Second, as you said, let's just use the reliable platform, Gemini, Copilot, OpenAI, Midjourney. I'm very much around Leonardo AI because I love the fact that they can help me with my prompting, actually, Anika.
Well, and I use it for my podcast episodes. I love that I can put in the episode and AI will pick out reels, little video snippets that are the best
Optimal.
ones, right? And then I decide if they are the best ones or not, and I
Yeah.
tweak them. But at least it gives me a head start instead of having going through every single episode again, which I'll listen to them when they come out on the air. But I don't have that time, right? And then it also creates, here is the transcript from the episode. Here's a potential blog post, captions. And you do have to go in and tweak them. You still have to have the human interaction, but it is a great time saver.
Yeah, so it's a great time saver. It's about humanizing our work, right? I mean, humanizing AI means you have to have a human in the loop, and then to make sure that the content is still your voice. So it's human centered, very
Yes.
critical. So what about the second point
Yes.
around, how do we build a brand identity and authenticity in the world of AI we are in now?
Yeah. I think the same way we've always done. You have to start with your brand blueprint. You start with, who are you? What is your purpose or your brand's purpose or your product's purpose? Why is it created? What is it going to help people do? You walk through, what is your vision for the world? How will this product brand make it better? What is your mission? So what is your vision in action? You have this dream that in 20 years, everybody will be able to do XYZ because of your product, or your specific audience, right? Will be able to realize this goal. But then how are you going to action that with your mission? And then what are your positioning, your values? And I think the more we lean into that, the better it is, the easier it is for us to find the right audience, to understand what the right messaging is for our product, for our service, for ourselves. Uh, because that's what people want nowadays. People are so tired of just hearing we hear so many marketing messages, tens of thousands a day. We know that as marketers, there are multiple touch points. So we have to reach out to our audiences in different ways, whether it's one is a podcast, one is a website. I
Mhm.
might go to your LinkedIn, then I might see an ad, right? Or I might see you on social media. And you need to have your brand be cohesive across all of the different platforms. And when you speak to people, you need to make sure that you are treating people digitally the same way you would treat a customer in real life.
Mhm.
So responding to their queries, answering their DMs, having a community manager who's engaging. That's something so many companies forget to do, is engage with their audiences. They think,
Yes.
I'm just going to build it. I'm going to put it out there. I have a post and then I don't need to respond to anyone. Well, how do you think they're going to find out more about you and buy from you? If you don't do that, they're not going to trust who you are. And it's all about authenticity and trust, right? Feeling like they know you and that they are like, okay, I can trust this person with something really important to me. And it
Yeah.
could be a small thing, but it could be a big thing, or it could be a small thing that grows into something larger and a bigger spend later down the road. Um, but I don't think that AI has changed the way that we need to be ourselves and be our brands and show up as brands. And I think especially the younger generations demand this fully.
Yeah, they're expecting it. So let's go into the world of selling because, over the past, I think 3 years, I think selling has changed. And often when I have those conversations is you don't really sell, you actually have a conversation and you try to solve a problem. And so how do we balance today the sell marketing conundrum? I had a great opportunity last year actually to meet Gary Vee Vegas, and we had that conversation around sales and marketing. And he was saying, if you are actually trying to sell the product without marketing, you are already too late, right? You have to focus on your marketing strategy, your marketing plan, and then things are going to come to you. What's your view?
Yeah, 100%. I get so many, I'm sure as everybody does, requests via email, cold calls, cell phone calls, because now lead gen companies can find your number. Emails to all of my different email addresses to ask me to do XYZ. I'm like, obviously your AI picked up one piece of my profile. If you actually were a person, you would understand that I'm on this committee, but I don't work at that company, or
Yeah.
I do this, but I'm not, as a professor, I'm not the decision maker for USC. Like, and so it baffles me that in this day and age, people are still, that's a poor use of AI and these technologies. And so it's really important, as you said, to have these organic conversations, whether it's you or it's a tool, find the tool that can have conversations with people that seem native, that are in your voice, right? And then help get them to the point where you can have a conversation like live rather than just online. Um, I, Thomas Helfrich is an expert on LinkedIn lead gen, and he talks about that. And what he does is he'll put a post, he'll see who responds to it. If he's not connected to them, he'll connect to them and then have a conversation. Then
Yes.
he'll go to the person's post and he'll look it up. It's the same thing we use in PR, or that we're supposed to use in PR. It's the same thing with sales and marketing. You must nurture the relationship because everything is relationship based, not sales, right? People will come and they'll make a decision. If there are 5 widgets, they're going to decide the one because they've built a relationship with instead of the other ones. So when I get those cold calls, those cold emails, those cold LinkedIn messages, I just say, nope, not interested. But if I get one that's trying to build a relationship with me and not just put one opening statement and then once they connect with me, then switch over to, hey, we saw you switch jobs. Maybe you need a new 401k or you need this or that. No, I don't. You obviously don't know who I am as a person. You don't value me as anything except for a number.
Yeah, 100%. And, LinkedIn in particular, which is one of my main channel, I get
Yeah.
a lot of those, as you'd expect, cold messages. And like you, I would say, you have not really read my LinkedIn profile. You actually picked a company I may be engaged with or I have engaged with, and you have decided it is my company. And so I usually press the button delete or block
Yes.
immediately because I don't have time with the volume of
Mm.
hours I have to deal with that. So that takes me, you mentioned already PR, new marketing approach when we look at the world we are living in. What is your view of the world of influencer marketing? You already mentioned TikTok. I was having a conversation this morning with a TikTok expert, which I am not, explaining, Sabine, that you can actually make, 10,000 quid, with 1,000 followers. I mean, I don't even understand what he was talking to me about. But I realized we are in a world where people are trying to find connection and, as you said, authenticity and really aligned identity. What do you see as prediction with the world of influencer marketing, if there is one?
There is one, and I wish I had my statistics in front of me, but a lot of what I'm talking about right now in one of my courses is the difference between user-generated content and professionally produced content. And a lot of companies are now going more towards user-generated. Even if you look at the latest, there's an article that came out yesterday in Axios about Meta and how they had one ecosystem of, I think, CrowdWatch. That might be a little bit of the wrong name, but it was a system where journalists and brands could see what's trending on Facebook, but they're trying to get away from news and
Yes, I saw that.
politics.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And they're moving more towards, they want to see viral video content from people. So every social media channel is realizing that. And also brands. If you look at TikTok, when you see an ad, it doesn't get as much service, as many clicks as when it's a person talking about a brand that they're using. So influencer marketing is going to become bigger and bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Is my prediction. But it's also going to change because it's not going to be the spam messages on Instagram where they're saying, we want you to be an influencer for a jewelry line and it's only this much money you have to spend. Well, guess what? With the shipping, you are paying for that jewelry. You're not getting a discount. You're not getting it free. And you're not really an influencer. They're sending this out to millions of people to buy their product that you probably wouldn't buy otherwise.
Yeah.
So it's going to be more about finding the people who really are voices and not worrying as much about the number of followers they have, but the true engagement.
Indeed.
And like you said on TikTok, the nice thing about the TikTok algorithm, kind of like YouTube, what's different is that it isn't about how many followers, it's about what your content is. And so then even if you don't have a lot of followers, it could put you on the explore page to more people just because you have content that might resonate with them, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
Indeed.
so it's fantastic. It's unfortunate that there are still the big influencers who try to take all the money and maybe don't deserve it. So I think we're going to see some things shift where it might become more equitable. But there are also AI influencers. So I want to flag that because there are fake influencers who have millions of followers and get product deals. I think that's more of a novelty. I don't think they're going to take over from
Hopefully they are not going
people
to take
at this
over,
point.
but we have seen quite a few, right? And they have been honest, they have
Right.
done the PR and they have done the articles. So you know
Yeah.
who some of those influencer, which are AI generated influencers are. And it's a choice, right? It's targeting
Right.
a very specific market as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
100%. So when actually I think about influencer marketing, because I do a little bit of work on the B2B side, macro work, what I find is educating brands around the change and maybe giving some tips to people out there around how do we educate the corporations to make that change could be useful. What I find is whilst we are trying to do user-generated content to be really interesting and authentic, we are dealing with brands and brands want things to be in their own way. And then we always surprised when it's not performing because we want it in our own way. So Anika, as an expert in marketing, what would be your advice to the big brands out there who are actually trying to do user-generating content, influencer-led marketing, but do not really understand that it means authenticity?
Yes. Oh, that's such a great question because most times, like you, I've done a little bit of micro and they provide you with briefs of here are the kinds of images that we want to see. Here are the hashtags. Here's the copy. Okay, but that definitely sounds like sales marketing, right? It doesn't sound like it is inspired. And I have a student in one of my classes who is an influencer full time. And she said she'll even offer brands a lower price if she can, that they have to pay her if she can do it her own way. And she
Mhm.
said more brands will say yes to that because then she can be very authentic about it. And then it actually is a better deal for the brands. She's still getting paid what she thinks is fair, but she's not having to adhere to those brand standards. And I think that's going to probably become more popular. But I think as brands, don't just look for everybody, look for people who really will speak to your audience, who really fit your demographic and your persona,
Yeah.
psychographically, not just demographically, and let there be more freedom and flexibility in what your influencers are going to say, and be open to their suggestions for content. And
100%, right?
have the hashtags, right? Give them the language that you usually use, but let them say it in their own way, because that's the only way it's going to be authentic.
Yeah. One of the campaign I've done for one of the US company, and they let me do whatever I wanted. I
Yeah.
actually achieved 250,000 clicks to their website
Oh my
in
gosh.
3 months. All target overachieved. They could not even believe it. But, some were a bit more constrained, means it's less authentic, truly, and it becomes harder. So I just wanted to highlight that as well, because authenticity is a key. That was a key word of this year, I believe. And people are really seeking and wanting to be surrounded by people who feel and look like them, but also are entertaining, if infotaining,
Yes.
and giving them value every day, maybe a smile. And why I think TikTok has done so well. You can smile at TikTok, you can smile on Instagram. We need to smile a little bit more on other
Yes.
platforms as well,
Ah,
right?
yeah.
And
Oh,
find
yeah.
a way we can mix business and, I want to say pleasure, but fun, because we are all remote working nowadays. And so we just need to have that light at the end of the day.
Mm,
How
yeah.
do you bring shine every day in your life, Annie?
Mm. Wow. I try to take time for myself to read, to be inquisitive, to walk my dogs. Um, I listen to subliminals when I go to sleep, so that it sets me up and just puts me in a really calm state of being. And then I try to listen to some positive affirmations and do some affirmations during the day when I can find time. So I try to find weeks, like I know that you and I both have weeks that are crammed full, and I look at my calendar and I go, wait, I was trying to schedule time in between each meeting, so I had a little mini break. But that is usually what I try to do, is not back to back, so that I have even 15 minutes between meetings and I can get up and do something, just get some energy flowing again, not just sitting at my desk the whole time, read a chapter of a book for fun, or read a chapter of a book for business that I've been wanting to get to, or build a shelf, or something I've been trying to do on my home. So I try to find those little moments of joy. And I also take a lot of joy in missing out. So the JOMO, joy of missing out. I love what I do. I love that I'm very intentional now about what I do. I'm actually getting my master's right now as well, because I teach master's students, but I don't have my master's. So to teach full time, I have to get that. So I'm getting my master's, I'm podcasting, I get to talk to amazing people all day, every day. I get to speak to my students and help them have those aha moments. And then beyond that, I want to spend time with my family and some close friends, and reading and fixing my house, and just giving myself energy and room to breathe and to create. Because if we don't give ourselves space, we can't be in that creative zone and come up with that next big idea.
I agree. I so much agree. Finding that, protecting that time to be able to be creative, right? I think the three main words or statement I've heard in the world of AI as, embraced us at speed are creativity, problem solving, and decision making. Those are the three words that generative AI cannot really do. They still need a human in the loop to actually achieve. And if we can actually look at the tool, the capabilities, and be more creative and
Hmm.
solve problems and help people make better decisions, we are in a star position.
Yeah.
As an expert in marketing, in branding, in educating others as to how to leverage the very best capabilities around us to build market growth and scale businesses, what would be your top tips? And I've favor to ask you top tips
Hmm.
for corporation, big companies,
Hmm.
and tips for tech founders. They may be the same, but I would really love for you to think through what big companies need to really think about today to be successful. What tech founders who are trying to scale their business need to think about to succeed as well in a world which is changing at such a fast pace.
Hmm. The first thing is the people. I'd say the people, the purpose are two of the biggest things. I see a lot of times corporations forget to take care of their people,
Yeah.
right? They also forget what their initial purposes and visions were. And the number of people I've had tell me, oh, I got my dream job, and they go into a big corporation, and then they find out that everything they thought it was about is they don't see it, right? They're not living it every day. So I think that corporations need to remember to live their values, live their purpose, remember to appreciate their people. And if a tech founder, somebody who's just starting out, can start from that basis, how much higher, faster will their growth be? So I guess 3 Ps: people, purpose, and productivity, or the SOPs, making sure that you have strong operations. I am not that person, but I know that I need that. So when I'm starting a new venture, I always say, who on my team that I've worked with before can be the person who can help me here, or who do I need to identify? So that is the only reason that I now can do this podcast every day, because I have an amazing team that I can turn more and more over to. So I have somebody who will make sure that the guests have filled out the forms, who will check my calendar. She will take the edited episodes from our editor and she will put them through the AI and make sure she'll create the graphics and the videos. Then she'll send them to the social media person to put them up. But then she'll also put them in the guest folder so that every guest has promotional materials for themselves. Then she'll schedule it, right? So she's taking so much of that work that I was doing myself, so that I can now have that time to really connect with people more, think about what's the next step. Okay, what else can I do for monetization strategy so that I can help support the people and myself, right, that are in my business, who are doing such amazing work and really helping me put this out. So if you think about your productivity, your operations, your people, and your purpose, and you keep those 3 things front and center, everything else falls into place. When I lean more into what I'm best at and what I'm passionate about, I get more offers for people who want to work with me, or for the financing, or I'm able to think about that idea that people have wanted to do and are asking me for, but I just wasn't listening because I was so distracted with something else.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And I hear you. And we need to find best way to create space in our lives to work maybe on fewer projects, better projects, things which are keen and aligned with our values and beliefs, and actually have a little bit of fun as well, right? After
Yeah.
those past 3 years. So can I ask you, what would be your last word of wisdom for everybody out there?
Ooh, my last word of wisdom. I always go back to a quote from the Dalai Lama, which is, be kind whenever possible. It is always possible. It can be very hard sometimes when we're thinking about how somebody else is acting to us, or we're in our own head, to be kind. But we have to remember that everybody we work with is coming from a place and they have their own things going on. So if we come at it with the kindness, we can get so much more done together and be much more productive and come up with better solutions and have better relationships, whether it's in work or outside of work.
Yeah, absolutely. Where we can find you, Anika, where can people learn a little bit more about you?
Thank you so much, Sabine. This has been such a wonderful conversation. I really appreciate all of your questions. My website is yourbrangamplified.com. You can find out more about me. You can listen to the podcast and even schedule a free session just to talk about anything: branding, marketing, PR, strategy, live podcasting, whatever. I have a calendar link up there, and I'll also share the link with you if you want to put it in the show notes and share
I
it.
would love
So,
to. Anika,
yeah.
please send me the link, because I think what I've seen is people listen to the session and then they say, okay, I need to connect with the speaker, and they find your link on the show notes and they reach out. And I've heard so many of my guests receiving calls and really having fun with my insurance technology group of amazing people, tech founders, investors, and corporate innovators. So definitely.
Mhm.
Anika, thank you so much for joining me today. And I cannot wait to continue the conversation.
Yes, I can't wait to have you on my podcast next.
I can't wait.
Thank you, Sabine.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Scouting for Growth. Please subscribe, share with friends, and leave a 5-star rating. Your rating is so valuable. I review all of them, and my team help me adapt content to meet your needs. Also, connect with me on my preferred channels. I am a B2B growth expert, so you will find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Threads, and X as well as Blue Sky. All information available below. Until next, keep scouting for growth.